In this video, I'm just going to overview the different question types. So I'm just in the inclusion exclusion criteria section. Here are the different question types. So you can do short answer. And so with a short answer text, I more would do this if I had like an open-ended question where I ask about their gender, or if I ask somebody how old they are, or their phone number, different things like that. And then you can actually go to this response validation right here, and you can say, oh, this is going to be a number and it's going to be greater than 18 or whatever it might be. Or you can say it's a whole number, it is a number. You can say that it's not equal to. So maybe it's something that where they can't enter zero. You could say it's not equal to zero. You can also choose text. And you can say that it contains an email. So that way, if you need a valid email, which again, this doesn't really apply to you guys, but just for reference, you can also say what it does not contain. And then you can also do length. So you could do a maximum character count. And let's say that there's some character count that is meaningful to you. You can select that. And then you can also have a regular expression. So you can have different information um, on patterns that you can have. So I don't think you're going to need any of these except number, because you will use that potentially if you're asking people how old they are. That's how you would use that. You would use that option. So now, paragraph. We will talk about this in class, but you can ask an open-ended question if you find it interesting. So let's say that you just want to ask them to share their experiences with AI so far. Um, and you just want to have them talk about it, you're not going to analyze it the same way that you will the other data, but maybe you find that interesting and it would be helpful to you in understanding the topic. You could potentially use some quotes in your survey or in your paper. You can do that. And so this allows them to respond with a longer answer. So paragraph is a good option if you want a longer response, whereas the short answer is if you want a shorter open-ended response. The multiple choice, I mentioned that in the previous video. That's when you want them to select one option. And so you could do option one. And notice if I just click where it says add option, it's going to keep adding options for me. A shortcut is if you already have your questions copy or written down somewhere, you can copy it and paste, and it will paste them into the different, as long as they're in different lines, it'll paste them into the different lines on the question. You can also do this add other, and it's going to actually, it adds other here, and it gives you a line so that people can actually enter in what that other is. So if it's you're asking about gender and they say their gender is other, then they can actually enter what their gender is, right? So that's helpful. You can also do checkboxes, which I don't recommend doing unless you have a specific reason for it, but that's when people can respond, can select more than one answer. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about demographics. You can do a drop down. So if you just like the way a drop down looks, it will show up as a drop down menu. So if I go to this, let's go next. Here we go. If I go to the preview to look at this, it actually shows up as a drop-down menu. I don't recommend that for when you have more than, I don't know, like 5 options because it gets a little unwieldy. But that's up to you if you feel like it's appropriate. And then you can also do a file upload, which none of you are going to do, but I could have, let's say that I want you to upload something, then that's what I could select there. I'm going to cancel that. You could do a linear scale. So I use this as an example in the macaque study. So let's say that you want to say how much you agree with the statement, AI is going to take all the jobs, for example. Um, then you could have one. So your one label would be strongly disagree to strongly agree. And how that looks is like that. So that is a reasonable option. The benefit to doing this is that if you're doing a Likert type scale, it'll put the number there for you. It just makes it easier to calculate, but it's not a big deal. I mean, it's not challenging um, to to do other ways. It's just a little bit more cleaning that you'll be doing, but not a big deal. You might also want to use ratings. So if you're doing a rating scale, that should probably not like AI is going to take all the jobs, but like how attractive is the person, can't type, is the person in this photo from 1 to 5 stars? I don't know. I've had students use it before, just because it looks kind of cooler. So that's up to you. Again, you can choose to do something like that. You can do a multiple choice grid. I think a lot of you might want to do this. It kind of makes it easier to respond for people. So you put your rows here. Let's say that these are, I'm going to go back to questions about AI. So I'm going to say select the level of agreement, just for reference. And then we're going to say AI is going to take all our jobs. My next question is AI is helpful. So they can be reverse and regular scored. That's the nice thing is you can use this and it won't make it more complicated like Qualtrics does. So you can, whatever your AI scale is, so you just keep putting in these questions, right? And then in my columns, I'm going to have my response options. So you would have like strongly disagree and disagree and neutral, etc., right? And so what this looks like is like that. It shows up okay on phones, so you can still do that. You just want to try to keep it from being too big. If you have really long questions that are going to go right here, then you probably don't want to do this type of question. You have a checkbox grid. It has the same advantages and disadvantages of that I mentioned before for checkboxes, so you can select more than one. I really don't think any of you are going to fall under that. You can also do date, so you can ask people the date for something, and it'll just make sure that they have the options. They can actually click on a little calendar and select a date. Again, I don't think it's going to apply to you. And time, same thing. You can ask people to put in a time for something. So that's the different question types. And then in the next video, I'm going to talk about demographic questions specifically and give you a little bit more detail on that.